it's time to rank some more Hercule Poirot. If you're new here, I'm Paris from Paris My Reads, and I read and review books from a biblical worldview, and I am going on a journey through Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot series, and I am back with the next 5 titles. I have been reading this series in order, so I already have a video up where I rank and review books 1 through 5. This is the next 5 in the series. These are books 6 through 10. So I've officially read the first 10 books of her Hercule Poirot series. I'm gonna review all of these first, and then I will give you a ranking at the end. I did my first video with the top 2. I think I'm gonna move it up to top 3 now. And then as the series goes along, I will probably end up having an overall top 5. That's where I see this progressing to, but right now I definitely have a top 3 favorite books. So first up is book 6 in the Poirot series, and that is The Mystery of the Blue Train. Unlike the first 5 books, Poirot doesn't really enter the chat until around 30% of this book. So the first 30% of the book is really setting up the key players that we are going to find throughout the narrative and trying to figure out what's happening. Who do we think is going to be the murder victim? Who do we think is going to be the suspect? That type of thing. I actually really liked getting to know the characters before Poirot entered on the scene, and it was really fun to see like how is he actually going to enter into the narrative, and at what point in the mystery is he going to become involved. This is our first encounter with trains in her mysteries and timetables and the details of train travel and what stations they were at and how that is involved in the murder plot. I'm really excited to see how she uses that more and more. My biggest pro to this book is that Hastings was not in it. That is Captain Hastings, usually Poirot's right-hand man, kind of like the Watson to his Holmes. So Hastings is basically Poirot's Watson. And I am not the biggest fan of his character, so I really like when books do not have Hastings in them, and this one did not have Hastings, so I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the train aspect. I really enjoyed getting to know the characters before Poirot was on the scene. So at the end of the day, I ended up giving this one a 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed this one. Before we jump into book 7, I wanted to make a little note. There is a play that was written by Agatha Christie called Black Coffee, and it is a Hercule Poirot play. It was published in between The Mystery of the Blue Train and book 7, which is Peril at House. It's actually not included in my Agatha reading tracker. I've realized that this is just strictly her published books, her published novels, the full-length novels and short stories. So this tracker does not include any of her plays. So I have tried to find Black Coffee, and there is actually a novelized version of Black Coffee. It was actually novelized by Charles Osborne. I do not plan to read that version. I have become a very strict, if I'm gonna read Agatha Christie, I'm gonna read Agatha Christie. I'm not gonna read what anyone else has changed or done to her original work. And so to read this, I have been trying to get access to the original screenplay. I'll put a link below. I have found it somewhere. I think I have to get a free trial of this website to even access it. So I have not read it yet just because it's a play. I've been focusing more on the reading tracker and her books, and so I will eventually get to the play. There's also another piece to all this that I plan to mention toward the end of this video as well that has come into play with reading Hercule Poirot in order. So I really would love your insight, especially if you've read all of her books or you have read all of her Poirot or the majority of her Poirot. I just would love your feedback on what you think about, should I add in the plays? I think Black Coffee might be her only Poirot play. And then also, what I'm going to mention later is I'll talk about that toward the end. Basically, just wanted to mention that Black Coffee is technically a novel because Charles Osborne turned it into a novel. So it is not her original screenplay writing if you read the novel, but you can access the original screenplay. It is not easy to access, but you can get it. I'm going to link it below where I plan to read it. I'm just going to get a free trial and download it and then cancel the free trial. You know what I'm talking about. I did want to make that note because if you're thinking, where's Black Coffee in this roundup of the next 5 books? It is not in there because it is not a novel, and I'm not going to read the novelized version of it. So next up is book 7, and that is Peril at House. Hastings is back in this one, and like I said, he's not my favorite, and so it took me about 50% of the book to get sucked in. I also didn't really love the female main character. I don't know, I just did not like her character. She's actually the person who is the suspected murder victim, and so Poirot and Hastings are basically trying to keep her alive. For lack of a better way to put it. So Poirot is trying to figure out who is trying to make these attempts on her life throughout this book. It is a new take from what we've seen from her previous works in the plot. I mean, honestly, at this point, I thought she has bound to repeat herself in this plotting, and she actually has not. The only thing she's repeating is that I literally cannot guess the ending, and she comes out of left field and gets me so good with the reveal every single time, and this book fit the bill. This one actually referenced the past crime. So the past book, it referenced that Poirot had just solved a murder on the blue train. I love picking up those little nuances as I'm reading these in order, because if I just pick this up out of order as a standalone, which you absolutely can do, you're gonna miss little things like that, which depending on how you want to read Poirot might not matter, but I have really loved getting that added detail and depth to the reading experience. Like I said, it took about 15% to get completely sucked into this one, but Poirot is at his top game in this book for his sass and his degrading humor toward Hastings, which is like my absolute favorite. It's the only reason I put up with Hastings is because Poirot makes so many great one-liners toward him, and I just love the humor that Christie put into this one. Because I didn't really love the female main character, Hastings was back, wasn't initially sucked into the plot. I did give this one a 4 stars. She did redeem herself in the end. I did not see the ending coming. She got me so good. This one got a 4 stars for me. Book 8 is Lord Edgware Dies. This also wasn't one of my favorites. The trope that she uses in this one is an actress is the main character, like celebrity type trope, and I just am not a big celebrity person. I don't love the celebrity trope, and so I didn't necessarily love this one right off the bat because she is a celebrity. She feels very entitled. She's trying to get what she wants basically out of her marriage or the dissolving of her marriage. That just was like initially off-putting to me right off the bat. However, the ending, how does she do it every time? This ending was crazy. I listened to all of these except one on audio with Hugh Fraser's audio, and I love his narration. He is my favorite narrator to listen to her books by. So I listened to it on audio, and then I had to go back and reread the ending, like Poirot's wrap up of it all and his spiel at the end. I had to go back and reread it because it was shocking. I did not see that coming at all, and I had to reread it to convince myself that like, yeah, actually that is what she did. Christie, that is what she did. She did it, and she did it good, and it got me. I will say, I'm also gonna make a note about this. So it has come to my attention that these new releases, these newest published paperbacks by William and Morrow have actually been edited. They are having sensitivity groups read these and give them feedback, and gave them feedback on things in Agatha's narrative that should be taken out. You would think it's because of things like racism and stuff like that, but there is actually in this book, this is the first time I've caught it in this series so far, but there actually is some anti-Semitism in this book. There's actually some in book 10 that I caught as well while I was listening to the audiobook. So I don't really know what they're redacting from this or what they're changing, but these 2025 William Morrow paperbacks have been edited in some form or fashion. So if you are wanting as close to the original as you can get, find her mass market paperbacks, and then also the William Morrow, like this type cover by William Morrow. So this is the 2011 edition, and then these are the 2025 edition. So if you can find the 2011 edition or any of her mass market paperbacks or Vintage, which is an imprint of Penguin Random House, they also have, as far as I know, not edited out any of her original Agatha Christie-ness, because she's writing this with the backdrop of the Great War and walking into a period of World War II. So there is anti-Semitism about, like very prevalent. So I'm honestly not surprised that there is anti-Semitism in here. However, it's never okay. And so I just want to make my stance right now by saying I do not agree with her use of anti-Semitism in these books of hers. And I am so surprised that they actually didn't take it out in their sensitivity group reading. I mean, I'll just read you this. And actually, so I've told you, I've mentioned before, I have an art degree. I have a master's degree, and my thesis was actually talking about anti-Semitism in artwork. And so that should tell you enough about how I feel about this. I also took an anti-Semitism class in college, and it was how to find it, where it's popped up, the themes of it throughout history, that type of thing. And so I'll read you this little part. It's Poirot talking. He's at a dinner with Hastings, and they are discussing some other people in the room. And so Poirot says, "She is shrewd, and she is something more. You observed without doubt that she is Jewish." And this is Hastings talking, narrating, "I had not, but now that he mentioned it, I saw the faint traces of Semitic ancestry." Poirot nodded. It makes for success, that. Though there is still one avenue of danger. Since it is of danger, we are talking. And that was Poirot. And then Hastings says, you mean? And then Poirot says, love of money. Love of money might lead such a one from the prudent and cautious path. It might do that to all of us, I said, which is Hastings again. So when I first heard this on audio, I was like, all right, he made a Jewish comment. Like we're already seeing anti-Semitism from saying like she's Jewish and I can tell by her features. But then what I didn't realize and I literally marked this to say like, my note says, wow, the anti-Semitic bent, huh? Like so disappointed in Agatha Christie for having this in here. So not only is is Poirot commenting on her being Jewish and calling that out by her physical attributes, but also assuming that she's going to be money driven. Because one of the anti-Semitic bents is that basically Jews run the world through like banks and they have all the money and XYZ. You can follow that pattern there. So he's also calling out that he would assume, he doesn't even know her, okay? But he's assuming she's Jewish because of how she looks and that means she's driven by the love of money. No, thank you. I am so disappointed that this is literally in the copy that they're changing. What are they taking out if they're not taking out racism? Okay? That's also why I don't want the change to happen, because it is important that when we see things like this, we say no, and history does not repeat itself. World War I and World War II do not need to happen again. So no, this is not okay. I'm disappointed in her using this and we need to be better. We need to be better going forward. Okay, that's my note to you. Wasn't planning on saying that, but I think it needed to be said. I do have quite a few tabs in this one. Let's see if I can find some fun tabs. Okay, and then literally on the next page, Poirot talks about when he uses his brain and intelligence to solve a crime. His little gray cells is what he calls that. So Poirot's talking and says the employment of the little gray cells is a mental pleasure. They and they only can be trusted to lead one through fog to the truth. And then Hastings says, I'm afraid that I've got into the habit of averting my attention whenever Poirot mentions his little gray cells. I've heard it all so often before, and I said, it's only book 9, bro. Get used to it. Like the little gray cells ain't going anywhere. That phrase is here to stay, okay? And then Poirot makes a joke about his mustaches. So Poirot says, doubtless she's been informed of my identity, said Poirot, trying to look modest and failing. And then Hastings says, I think it's the famous mustaches. She's carried away by their beauty. Poirot caressed them surreptitiously. It is true that they are unique, he admitted. Oh, my friend, the toothbrush, as you call it, that you wear, it is a horror, an atrocity, a willful stunting of the bounties of nature. Abandon it, my friend, I pray you. Oh, Poirot's making fun of Hastings' mustache to his face. I love it so much. It's so funny. Poirot was in peak form in this book too. And then this is another mustache quote. This is actually Hastings talking about someone else's mustache, and it says, the little mustache marooned like an island in the middle of the expanse of face. Like the face is an ocean of skin, and this little mustache on this dude's face is a little tiny island. That is hilarious. Let's see what else I got in here. Okay, here's another one. This is Poirot and Hastings talking again. And Hastings said something that he thought was helpful to Poirot, and it basically wasn't. So this is Poirot's comment about it. Poirot says, my good friend, he said, I depend on you more than you know. Yes, he said dreamily, you may not always comprehend just how it is so, but you do often, and often point the way. I could hardly believe my ears. Really, Poirot, I stammered. I'm awfully glad. I suppose I've learned a good deal from you one way or another. He shook his head. You've learned nothing. Oh, I said, rather taken aback. In you, Hastings, I find the normal mind almost perfectly illustrated. Like, you haven't learned anything, you're just dumb. And it helps me see more clearly when you say dumb things. He's already figured it out this far into the book, Poirot has. And so Poirot says again, mentioning about Hastings' mind, he says, I know the truth of the whole affair, and so could you know it if you would only use the brains the good God has given you. Sometimes I really am tempted to believe that by inadvertence, he passed you by. Oh my goodness. I love it so much. Okay, so that was some of my quotes from this book. I gave this one 4 stars. I didn't love the actress just because I don't like the celebrity trope. Okay, next is book 9, and this is a popular Poirot novel, probably her most infamous Poirot novel, and that is The Murder on the Orient Express. I actually vlogged this, so if you want to check that vlog out, I have it linked above. I'll also put it in the caption below. This was actually a reread for me. I had read it 8 years ago, literally remembered nothing. This is a locked room mystery. This is the first time we see her use the locked room mystery trope in a Poirot book. If you want to see my full review, thoughts, reading experience, which was crazy, and a peek at how I kind of fit reading into being a full-time stay-at-home mom, check out that vlog. I'm not gonna say anything else about it, except that I gave this a 5 stars. This is the first 5 stars I've given in this Poirot journey. So book 9 got my first 5-star rating. And finally, book 10. I finished this one last night, and that is 3-Act Tragedy. This again has the celebrity trope. She really liked her actors and actresses. And she also, like I mentioned before, she did some playwriting. So I think that is just natural for her. Her use of that, I don't even know that it was a trope. He used to be an actor, so I actually really liked how she used that in this plot. What was wild about this is that Poirot, so kind of pulling on the Murder on the Orient Express is another train mystery, which we had in book 6. So this actually completely takes place on a train, like I said, lock-through mystery. So then in book 10, Poirot doesn't show up until toward the end, also kind of harkening back to the mystery of the blue train. It's like she's fleshing out some of what she did in the blue train in these final 2 books that I read. So 3-Act Tragedy, Poirot shows up at a dinner party and someone dies, and they originally think it's because of natural causes. So Poirot is like not interested in being involved in the murder at all because it wasn't a murder. Well, then as the book unfolds, it ends up that it was a murder, and he comes back on the scene well past the 50% mark. So what I really enjoyed actually seeing the main 2 characters in this book are basically going around trying to figure out the murder, and they're trying to seek all these different avenues like Poirot and Hastings normally would, or like the lay people Poirot and Hastings. It was just really an interesting plotting by her to say we're going to follow these 2 non-detective characters, and then Poirot basically comes into the plot at, it might even be the 60% mark in the book, basically swoops in and saves the day and figures out how everything gets wrapped up. And again, wild. Having read all of these books now, I'm like, literally no character is safe. Even if you don't think it could be anyone, it could be anyone. It could be anyone. She is just a genius mastermind. I gave this one a 4 stars as well. So those are the 5 titles that I read, books 6 through 10. Really the only standouts from these 5 were Murder on the Orient Express, which got my very first 5-star, and then The Mystery of the Blue Train, which I gave 4.25. Before I do my ranking, I'm gonna give my quick takes on these. So far, there's just like a blanket of language spice content I can give for basically all of these books. The content kind of depends on the book, but so far the content is pretty similar across all 10 titles. The genre is murder mystery. Language is mild, and God's Name in Vain. Spice is none. The content on these 5 titles specifically are murder, inferred, suicide, extramarital affair, and past death of child. So for my rankings, I finished off my last video with my top 2. My number 2 was The Big Four, and then my top title was The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. So to refresh my rankings, I'm gonna do a top 3 for this. I don't think I'm in a top 5 territory yet, but I think as I continue to read this series, I will eventually end this whole thing with a top 5 book list, but I'm making the rules, so it could be a top 6 or 7. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how this journey goes. But right now, The Big Four is going to come in 3rd at 4.5 stars. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd is going to be sitting in at 2nd place, and that's sitting at a 4.75 stars. And then my number 1 is going to be my very first 5-star rating, and that is going to be Murder on the Orient Express. So those are my top 3 ratings. If you're looking to read Hercule Poirot and want a place to start, any of those 3 titles is what I would recommend for you to start. If you don't want to read this series in order, these absolutely can be read as standalone books, and these are the 3 that I would recommend to you. So I said I would mention this, and let me grab it. I got, and I'm gonna need, if you have read all of Agatha Christie, I'm gonna need your input on this. I got this massive chunker. Let me just show you the size comparison. I got this massive chunker. We have 50 short stories in here. Actually, it says over 50. It's 51. So just barely over 50. We got 51 short stories. I am worried that it's not all of them. My reading tracker does have some discrepancies, so I feel like it might be missing a couple of titles. So I might have to go on the hunt, but I've not been reading these in order. I've not been reading these in publishing order, I should say. So some of them I have already read because her 3rd book in the Poirot series is Poirot Investigates, and it's actually a collection of short stories. And I really loved that one. I gave that title 4.25 stars. And that is what made me, that and this tracker made me really want to get this, because I don't want to miss a Poirot. I can't decide if I should to get caught up to where I am currently in her publishing order and then start reading these as I read the books. I don't think I would add them in on a ranking. I think it would just be my personal reading experience as I go through his series. But let me know your thoughts on that, because I really can't decide. I'm quite a bit, I mean, like, I feel like I've missed quite a bit of titles already. There are so many short stories. I don't know if I should treat this and Black Coffee as just like something I'll read later, or if I should add them in to get caught up to her publishing order. So again, if you have read the entire Hercule Poirot or a good chunk, or these short stories and the Black Copy playwright, please let me know in the comments what you think I should do. The next book I'll be tackling in the Poirot series is Death in the Clouds. I know nothing about this title. I actually don't really know anything about the next big chunk of books. And I got these all used. I have all the next big chunk of books ready to go on my shelves back here. If you want to see my unboxing video for that, I'm going to put it up right here. It was a really awesome used book haul that I found online. So highly recommend checking out that video, seeing me unboxing 8 Agatha Christie books. And I would love for you to permanently join me here on YouTube, this Agatha Christie journey, just this YouTube journey in general. And I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. You can do that by clicking on my picture, and join me next time for more Poirot. But until then, I hope all of your reads are 5 stars.